Can individuals change society? Have you ever heard yourself saying, I can't do this, I can't make a difference? Well, I think you're just lying to yourself when you do that, because throughout history we have seen individuals make significant impacts on our society because people or individuals do have the ability to alter the social norms of our society using both their words and their actions. Humanism was created during the 14th and 15th century during the Renaissance by a man named Petrarch. It is all about the ability for humans to do things by themselves or individually. Whether this be through bettering yourself through education or the arts, but it's all about making yourself better. The quote that I picked to sum it all up is, "A man can do all things if he will," by Leon Battista Alberti. This really sums it up because it goes hand in hand with the man. It's more about trying than the ability not to do it. If you try to do something and really work at it, you have the ability to change anything. And so that during the early 14th to 15th century, you could see that people were realizing that humans had great enough powers to do whatever they want, whether it be changing society as a whole. When talking about very influential people throughout history, you have to talk about Martin Luther King. Throughout schools across the country, all children are learning about Martin Luther King because of what not only he did for African Americans, but all people of color. One of his most influential works was the I Have a Dream speech given in Washington, D.C. during the first Washington March. If you haven't read it, it's all about how he no longer wants there to be racism or segregation in this country. He wants everyone to be treated equal and everyone to get along. So that really shows his entire dream, and we've made great strides towards getting to that since his time. Since then, we have created a less segregated environment. We have desegregated schools, and like water fountains used to be segregated, but we've gotten rid of all that, and we've created a more like equal environment for most people. It's not all the way there, but we're getting there thanks to the great foundation set by Martin Luther King. However, people do also have the ability to change society in a very negative way. If you look at one of the most devastating events in American history, 9/11, you can see how it can be changed in a very horrible way. 9/11 occurred on September 11th, 2001, when 19 men of the Al-Qaeda terrorist group boarded 4 planes, 2 of which impacted directly on the World Trade Center buildings and flattened them completely. Over 3,000 lives were lost on that day. It was very crucial, and it was a very sad day for all of America. Most people will remember it like exactly what they were doing when it happened. It can tell you the very same events because of how crucial it was to their history, to America's history. But before we can talk about the impacts that caused, you have to talk about like the pre 9/11 era and how different it was from the post era. One of the things, the most physical example of that is our airport security. Our airport security before 9/11, you could see it was very lackadaisical. People could walk directly to the gate, and it was also very easy to carry small like blades or box cutters, which is what the men used to hijack the plane, get onto the plane. But also in like a more mind like thinking sense, we weren't as paranoid about attack on our country because it had never happened before. We had never been attacked on our own country. So before we get into the post-impact, we're gonna get a quick video from my father and a local business owner. Thank you for being here today. Today we'll be talking about the events on September 11th, 2001, or the 9/11 terrorist attack. Do you recall where you were on that day?
I do. I was at my office at USA Image Technologies. This was before Twitter and everything else, so I think maybe I had seen an email from a news source saying there was breaking news. We began to gather in the conference room in our office, turned on the television, watched. It wasn't long after we started watching that the second plane hit the second tower, and wasn't long after that we watched the 2 towers collapse.
How would you say that's changed our society as a whole from before 9/11 to after?
Well, I would say we developed a certain greater insecurity. We have obviously gone fighting 2 wars, spent billions upon billions of dollars on airline security. Interestingly, to stop weapons at the time that you would never have thought were weapons. We have sort of developed, I think, a bit of a victim mentality in this country, that we're under siege. It was pretty shocking, I think, to most Americans, but I will say that your mother and I and some friends at that time were welcoming some Sudanese lost boys to the United States, literally the week of 9/11. So the night of 9/11, we sat in their apartment, the Americana Apartments. We set their apartment up and were watching television with them, and which was a really important thing for us, because we were totally shocked that the world could be this unstable and insecure. But these were young men who, as teenagers, were displaced and walked hundreds of miles to escape a war, and finally made their way to the United States. And so they were basically able to kind of contextualize that for us, that the world's kind of a rough place.
Well, thank you for being here today.
Is that all?
For having you. Yes. So one of the main things that you could see in the interview with Tyler was the fact that it created a fear, or instilled a fear upon our community, and a victim, like a victim mentality, because this had never happened to us, so we felt like we were being punished in some way, and it really showed us how cruel the world was, how he said, and how we never experienced anything that devastating here, or like anywhere like on our like American soil, as some people would say. But into the more like physical numbers part, he also talked about the amount of money and we've put into defending our country now. Is, as you see right here, 2001. This is 2001 on the 9/11 terrorist attack. That is when the event occurred, and now we have poured almost double the amount of money into our U.S. Department of Defense for like wars and airport security, just to have a sense of security and safety for ourselves, because we now fear the possibility of an attack by another country. The other graph right here is about public opinion on immigration and how it should be controlled, regulated, or whatnot. And it's not the overall trajectory of the graph, because it's pretty calm for the most part, but once you see 2001 right here, it's when it sort of goes crazy. And if you would completely ignore like the overall trajectory of the graph, you can notice that the most important part is the ups and downs, and it really shows that public opinion keeps changing, because it's becoming a more relevant topic. It's being discussed more, and you can really see people paying attention to what's going on, and so their opinion is changing more frequently, showing that they're actually caring more about the issues and studying it and changing their opinions on what's happening in the present. So both of these graphs show the impact that that small group of terrorists and led by Osama bin Laden had on our society as a whole, because it shows the fear that was instilled and how it changes how we think daily and what we need to spend just to feel safe. Both of these men have affected our society in a very large manner, one using his actions in a very negative way and one using his words in a very positive way. Both these are prime examples of how individuals have the ability to change society in a positive or a negative way using both their words and their actions. Thank you for listening.
Yay!